Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leathercraft, and we're going to have a good time making a simple but beautiful Bund style watch band. Now I say simple, that's exactly right. Just a few steps here, but on the cost side, very inexpensive. We're going to come out of one panel of leather. So therefore, fun, looks good, easy, inexpensive, we've got a winner. All right, anything I use in this video, weaverleathercraft.com or check below. We've got links there, going to take you straight to our website. So let's step over here, take a look at our pattern. The only difference between a standard project and a watch band is this. We've got very little real estate here to work with. If we think about it, we're going to cross about 2 inches. Then we've got to make a 180-degree bend, and on the back about that same 2 inches. Problem on the back, it gets worse, because now we've got to add a keeper, a buckle, and our adjustment. Now on this, we're going to go with my wrist. Probably a little bit below average. I'm 7 inches circumference. So therefore, you're going to have to adjust in just a couple of places. But this is going to be pretty close. So all you'll have to do is fine tune. We're going to jump over to our pattern here in just a second. But we've got to talk about this. So our watch head. This is relatively standard. They can be much larger or smaller. The reason I mention that is because we might have to accommodate that for length on our sizing. Again, fine tuning. Secondly, these two arms are called lugs. There's a spring bar in between there so we can take the straps off. That's going to determine the width of our strap. Last, I'm going to come in about 1 inch on my main body. Let's jump over to our pattern. So on this 6-inch length, I've got 1 3/4 inch wide. Then we've got 4 oblong holes there. Now, we can always go with just a big rectangle. Absolutely easy to create, easy to do. But I really like the way this tapers coming off of the watch head. What we can do to make this super easy, let's take a piece of copy paper. We're going to cut out our rectangle, then let's fold twice. Now all I have to do is make one cut. When I open this up, perfectly symmetrical. So it's an easy pattern to make. Okay, on our billets, let's jump back over to our pattern. So we've got a tongue side, 6.5 inches by 3/4 inch. That's the distance between my lugs. And then on our buckle side, we've got 5 1/4 by 3/4 inch. So relatively easy here. Now our keeper, that's just going to be a small piece, 2 1/8 inches by 3/8 of an inch. And we'll cut that out of some scrap. But for the most part, there's our pattern. Super easy. So let's step over to our main table. Let's cut some leather. Let's start with a cut from our 12 by 24 inch panel of Lexi. This is a beautiful leather. It's a chrome tan, 3 to 4 ounce, and the color here is steel. That's going to look good behind that black watch and a black stitch line. Now we're going to go 1 ply for our billets. This has got a little body to it, but the problem here is this. We've got to make that bend around that spring bar. 3 to 4 ounce is about the thickest that we're going to be able to use. So what we'll do is we'll go single ply on our billets. We'll add a stitch line for strength and to keep the stretch down. We don't have a lot here, but over time it could stretch. And then on our main body, we're going to go with 2 ply. Give that a good solid feel. So the first thing we want to do, let's cut 2 pieces a little bit larger than our body. So we'll glue these together. We'll actually line this leather with this leather. So we'll cut this a little bit larger, glue these together, then we'll trim to size. So therefore, look at that edge. We don't have to try to meet edges. That's very tough with the contact cement. So we're at 1 3/4 by 6. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces at maybe 2 1/4 by 7. Okay, that looks good. So those are going to meet nicely. Now let's take our contact cement. I'm going to add cement to both sizes. In fact, both sides. And trim that off. There we go. Let's add some glue to both sides, and then we'll give that about 5 minutes dry time. Good, right to our edge. We're not going to have any misses there, so let's give that just a couple of minutes to let that glue dry. Looks dry, feels dry, but it's very tacky. Let's lay these two together. Good. Press. And we have a good bond. I love the contact cement. Let's trace out our pattern and mark for our oblong holes. There we go, good. Let's start with a new blade. We're cutting through 2-ply here. So let's start with a new blade. And we'll use a square to get our 2 ends good and straight. There we go. Okay, now on our corners, what we're gonna do, let's clip a good piece, then we're gonna come back in and just clip the 2 points on either side of that. So therefore, it's not a perfect round corner, but it's gonna look pretty good. Okay, this piece, marked and ready to go. Let's set that aside. Now we're gonna jump over, cut our billets. Now these are both 3/4 inch, so I'm going to cut 2 straps 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to mark these with my knife, so therefore I can get a very accurate measurement. We've got our 2 straps, so let's take these and mark from pattern. Good, those are marked. We only have 1 piece left, and then we're going to jump over to our punch table. So let's cut a piece 2 1/8 inch by 3/8. And there's our keeper. Okay, let's jump over to our punch table, punch all of our holes, and in punches. Let's start with our round holes. So for our keeper, we're going to use 3 different size tubes here. For our keeper, let's go with the absolute smallest on our revolving punch, and let's punch 2 holes as close to the end as we can, because we're going to tie this. We'll loop it and then tie this with some wax thread, okay? Over here, let's jump up to our second from our smallest tube. We're going to use this for our rivet holes. Therefore, our rivet will be a little bit snug, thus it's going to be a better bite. Okay, and jump over here, right here, just our 2 end holes. Good. Now, for our size holes, let's jump up to our 3rd tube. Nice. Looks good thus far. Okay, let's jump over to our English point. So 3/4 strap, 3/4 English point. On our round ends, we don't necessarily need to add a round end here, but it's going to be a nice touch. We've got the tool. Let's use it. Last thing, our oblong. So right here on our pattern, we've got a spread. The longer spread is going to get our oblong. Now I tend to like to go a little longer. Rule of thumb here, 3/4 inch strap, 3/4 inch English or oblong, English and round. But we don't have a lot of room here to work. So let's drop that in. Same thing over here. We've got a 3/4 inch strap. I'd like to go a little wider, but we just don't have the room. Okay, everything's punched. Let's step back to our main table, add a groove line in. On our groove line, we need to go a little bit lighter. If we really push into that, like we normally do, notice I'm going to see more groove line than stitch line, and I don't want that. So over here, let's use our groover. I'm going to set this just a hair under 1/8 of an inch, and all I need to do is just go very lightly. There we go. So I've got enough of a guide there for my chisel, but it's not going to stand out. Okay, main body. Now right here, we're going to start here, go around our English point and back. And off the end there. Okay, here, we just need 2 lines because both ends are going to bend back on us. Good. Now we don't need anything in our keeper, so let's go back to our punch table, drop in our chisel line. We're going to use our 4mm diamond chisel. Makes a nice stitch. So let's start right here. I'm going to take my single tine, right in my groove line. I'm going to start right on my point. Good. Got chisel on the back side. Now from here, I'm going to work my way down on both sides, just so that my chisel line makes a nice point right at the end of our English point. So let's do this. I'm going to mark, take my 2 tine, I'm just going to press that in. I can see that. drop in my groove. There we go, good. So basically I'm just doing my best to keep this as consistent as I can. Now I'm in a straightaway, I can jump up to my 6th tine. I typically like to put 1st tine last hole, but this is a smaller hole, so I don't want to really open that up. So what I'll do is press this in. Now I know where my next chisel needs to be. Good. Now I'm going to work my way down from there right to the end. And right to the end. Okay, let's do the same thing on the other side. Okay, that looks good, clean and straight. Now right here, all I need to do is just go from one end to the other on the groove line. Okay, that looks good. Now, over to our main body. I would love to get this as close to the edge as I can. The closer to the edge, the more professional, particularly on a smaller project. But I'm worried with my depth here that if my tine or my chisel is too much at an angle, I can come through the edge. So what we'll do here is let's just stick to that groove line. In fact, let's start in one corner, again with a single chisel. Now let's work our way all the way around. And coming around to our end, see if I can get a 4 in there. No, but we can certainly get a 2 in there and one more, and that is going to be just right. The trick here is consistency. That's what we're looking for, and it looks like we've got it. Okay, let's jump to the other end of the table, drop in a stitch line. We've got a great video on hand sewing. It's got all the ins and outs, but we'll just hit the high points here. So first off, we're going to use the John James needles number 18. Love this needle. It's a smaller needle, but very strong. We've got a smaller hole here with our diamond chisel. Secondly, 0.6 millimeter Ritza Tiger thread. Now, a smaller thread looks better on a smaller project, but your project, your call. If you want a bigger thread, more prominent, bump up to the 8 or the 1 millimeter. Last, I'm going to need 4 times my distance, okay? So let's start right here. I'm going to start from my front, 1 needle, first hole. Let's equalize out. Now we're going to come in. I'm going to bring from my front side. If we think about it, this hole we punch from the top. So therefore that hole, it's more funnel shaped. On the back, it's going to pucker a little bit. So let's start from our front, bring that needle through. Then on our back, now that needle's going to find that hole easily. All we have to do now is make an X. Let's move our fingers from the eye of the needle to the tip. There we go. We've got a single stitch. Now, I don't want to add too much tension here. It's a chrome tan. It's got a little more supple feel to it. So let's not add too much tension. There we go, and we can just sew right along. I'm going to sew all the way around. There we go. I'm going to sew all the way around, and then we'll tie our knot right where we started. And we're coming down to our last hole. Very good. Let's complete that. Now, we're going to tie a square knot on the back. We could hide our knot. We could very likely come through one ply, but that's going to split it. So let's do this. On our back side, we're going to tie our standard square knot. Right over left, left over right. Bring that in, good. Left over right, circle around. There we go. Now, let's take our 2 tails, and I'm going to go from either side of that knot to the front. Pull that a little bit tight, same on the other side. Good. Now, with our knife, what I want to do is I don't want to cut through my thread. I'm going to hold my knife. We never use this part of our blade. So I'm simply going to put my knife right next to that thread. Then let's pull that thread across the knife. Now, those little tails are not going to stay in there forever. We could always add a little bit of glue, but that's going to hold. We're also going to hammer this down. That'll help. But doesn't that look good? Nice stitch line. Okay, let's jump over over to our billet. Now with this, we've only got one ply, so I'm only going to go about 3 times my length. But here we need to add our tension a little bit differently. So let's get 4 or 5 stitches in here. And one more. Now I'm not really adding a lot of tension because this will ripple. So let's do this. About every 4 or 5 stitches, let's just pull this lengthwise. There we go. So now we've got a tight thread there, but we don't have the wrinkling. Okay, so I'm going to work my way all the way around. And down to our end. In fact, let's do this. Let's go ahead and pull lengthwise. I'm going to take one needle through our last hole. And now on this side, let's tie our square knot over here. Okay, we can trim this a little bit longer. There we go, because that's going to be a bend back. Actually, that looks pretty good too. Okay, so on this side, I'm simply going to sew one side, then the other. We're ready to assemble. And down to our end, a square knot, and we are done sewing. Hand sewn, but all told, not bad. About 15, maybe 20 minutes. But that too looks pretty good. So I'm going to tie a square knot and we'll be ready to knock this together. Good, let's jump over to our punch table, drop in some rivets, and this beautiful watch strap is ready to go. To assemble this, let's start with our keeper, because we're going to run this is an end cut from our thread from sewing. Let's run that through both holes, circle around and do that again. That way we've got a nice double loop there. Now we don't want to pull this together so hard that these butt flesh or skive to skive. So let's take this, tighten that down somewhat. We'll tighten that when we get the knot in. Yeah, everything is so little here. So let's tie a simple square knot, secure that. Okay, we've got a good hold there. So let's trim this off. Good, keeper's ready to go. Now, on this let's get rid of that. There we go. So what we want is our buckle side to our 12 o'clock position. So let's put this on first, but we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to secure our buckle and our keeper on, then we'll knock on our watch head once that's assembled. We can always open that up to change the batteries out. Now with our buckles, at Weaver we've got buckles all the way down to 3/8 of an inch. So let's drop this on our billet, circle around, and don't forget the keeper. I've done that so many times, I don't even want to talk about it. So let's drop that on, good. Now we're going to take a small or 1/4 inch double cap. We're going to secure the keeper inside between the rivet and the buckle, and let's set that. Okay, now we've got spring clips on this, so we can always take this off, but if you've ever tried to work with one of these, if we miss that by a little bit, that's going to shoot off into space and we'll never see it again. So our tendency is to go ahead and load this on, but what we need to do, let's load this through first. There we go. Now let's circle 12 o'clock position. Let's circle our spring bar. Drop in a rivet here and secure this down. There we go. Now again, the spring bar will come out if we need to. If we need to take this completely off, we can do that. Okay, on the other end, let's drop in our tongue side. There we go. And we're going to run this through. Center it. And pull from this side. There we go. Is that not a good looking watch band? Sturdy, durable, well made, simple project. And that's exactly right. But the best point is, we can put this on right now, wear it, and love it. Now, one last point. We went with the steel. Looks good with that black case. But depending on your watch head, we've got all kinds of colors that will match or contrast. So make this project your own, wear it, love it, and I hope you get plenty of compliments on it. Good luck with your projects.